Hi, I'm Harry Bloom, Director of Planning and Performance Improvement for the Institute for University School Partnership at the Azrieli Graduate School of Yeshiva University. I am here to introduce a series of video presentations all on the theme, doing all we can to improve the affordability of our schools. Today's presentation will be about the topic of what can board members do to help ensure the affordability of their schools. And I'm going to break this down into four key aspects of the board's work and responsibility. The first is to have knowledge about the situation. What this means is that every board member, and not just people on the finance committee, need to be fully informed about the revenue of the school, the expense structure of the school, and the cash flow of the school. You need to know the various sources of revenue, what the contribution is of various enrollment levels, what the history has been, what the tuition at the school is, how that may differ by grade, how it compares to other schools in the area. You need to understand the expense structure of the school, roughly how much is for faculty, how much is for facilities, how much it is for financial aid, etc. It is critically important for board members to be informed so that, for example, when they're asked to approve a budget, they really have some context and they're not simply, going along with what everybody else thinks and agreeing to something that they really haven't thought through. The other aspect of the school that the board needs to be fully knowledgeable about is the programming of the school. What are the strengths of the program? What are some of the weaknesses of the program? Where are there opportunities to improve that program? Without having this kind of knowledge, you're not in a position to really help the school out. And we need all the help we can get to deal with the great affordability crisis that we face. Secondly, you need, as a board member, to commit to work on an active committee dealing with affordability in one way, shape, or form. This could be, as we'll talk later, the development committee, which raises funds. It could be the finance committee, which does planning and monitoring of the finances of the school. It could be the facilities committee, which is looking at ways to save energy. It could be the student recruitment aspect of the school. But there ought to be all hands on deck. There ought to be nobody on the board who isn't actively engaged in dealing with the affordability crisis. And the committees of the school are the muscle of the school. They are the ways for board members to really make a difference. And no board meeting should go on without the focus of that board meeting being on some aspect of the affordability crisis. Thirdly, planning. We did a survey recently of board presidents in roughly 65 Jewish day schools. And one of the question series that we asked about was planning. Do you have a long-term vision, meaning goals for your school, where you want your school to be 3 to 5 years out? Do you have a plan to get there? And thirdly, do you have a financial plan, which basically details how you're going to pay to achieve those goals? How many students are we assuming? How much tuition are we assuming? How much fundraising are we assuming? What are we assuming we can spend on various aspects of our program? If a school is in the midst of an affordability crisis and it doesn't have a sense of where it's headed and how it's going to get there and how it's going to pay for that, it is at a tremendous disadvantage because every decision then is made without a long-term context. And we risk making foolish decisions. I'll give you one prime example. Sometimes schools say, you know what, our parents are struggling, we're going to keep tuition flat. And we're not going to raise it, and that's one way we're going to make our school more affordable. What they don't think about, though, is the compounding effect of going a whole year without raising tuition. So that means after 5 years, let's say in the second year you suddenly decide to raise tuition, but you've missed a whole year of tuition raising. So your base is that much lower. And on a compounding basis, where you compound year after year, the difference to a school from keeping tuition flat in 1 year, 5 years out, might actually be a very significant amount of money. Whereas if they had thought about it in a long-term context, they might have made a different decision and simply said, we'll raise tuition but offer more financial aid. That's an example of where the absence of planning can really hurt you. The fourth area I want to talk about is resource development, fundraising. The role of the board here is profound. Let me again draw upon the Board of Directors research that we did recently with board presidents. We asked them, were they satisfied or very satisfied with the contribution of their board in fundraising? And what we found suggests that there's room for a lot of improvement. Only 30% of board presidents said they were very satisfied with the extent to which board members gave one of their top financial gifts to the school. Meaning 70% were less than very satisfied with that. That varies obviously across schools, but it could make a huge difference in terms of not only the annual campaign, but in terms of being able to approach others because the board has gone first and given, sacrificial gifts. They have then the moral authority to go to others and ask for that. If they haven't given that kind of gift, they're not going to have that moral authority or the conviction to approach others for sacrificial gifts. Another major area that the survey indicated that there's room for improvement is major donor identification and cultivation. We all know that there's an 80-20 principle, meaning in fundraising terms that 20% of the givers account for 80% of the funds. Those are the major donors. And board presidents indicated that only 23% of them were very satisfied with the extent to which their board is reaching out into their connections, whether those are business connections, neighborhood connections, shul connections, foundation connections, and identifying potential major donors to the school who can then be cultivated. That is, there's a saying in the Torah, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. You shouldn't stand and watch the blood of your brother being spilled. Board members who aren't constantly out there hunting for major donor prospects for their school exemplify, for me, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, because basically they are losing that opportunity to bring people into the school community who, by writing a check, could make an enormous difference to the financial viability of the school. It doesn't mean that every board member needs to be comfortable with soliciting gifts, but at least to have your eyes open and identify people who might want to support the mission of the school, whether it's a grandparent, a business associate, a neighbor, etc., is a lost opportunity that no school can recover from. So I want to say that in summary, there's an enormous contribution that board members can make to the affordability crisis, and our research suggests that there's room for great improvement. And so let me summarize the 4 things that you as a board member can do and that you can help other board members step up to. 1, be more knowledgeable about the finances and programs of your school. 2, work on a committee, day in, day out, related to affordability. It can be in your comfort zone, but don't not work on a committee related to affordability. 3, make sure that your school has a long-range plan, a long-range financial plan to go with it, and has really thought through in a long-term context how it's going to pay to be solvent and deal with the affordability crisis. Don't just allow your school to bumble along from year to year making ad hoc decisions. And finally, play your role in resource development. Give one of your top financial gifts as a board member. Be an example. Be a leader. Secondly, help identify major donors who can be cultivated by your school and can make a huge difference to its financial wherewithal and help fight affordability crisis. Thank you very much. Please do your part.